Hi, my name is Chippewa from the Cherokee tribe, and I will be drawing and explaining the significance of my childhood in boarding schools during the mid-1800s. It all started with the Indian Removal Act, which was an act by Congress to clear Indians from lands east of Mississippi River. They moved tribes west to Indian Territory, which was a dense and civilized population in large tracts of country now occupied by a few savage hunters. Our tribe attempted a legal defense. We claimed that we were protected from the removal because of earlier treaties. However, the state of Georgia refused to recognize our rights, so we appealed to the Supreme Court. The court upheld these rights, but President Jackson refused to enforce them, so we were removed by force. Assimilation was a huge factor during this movement. The government adopted policies that aimed at assimilating Indians to demolish traditional Indian cultural identities. Then came the Dawes Act. It was an act by the federal government that broke up tribal lands and distributed them into individual plots. Only those who accepted the act were allowed to become U.S. citizens. The purpose of this act was to transform us as Native Americans into citizens by taking away our cultural and social traditions. The purpose for establishing Indian boarding schools was that it was meant to assimilate us Native Americans into white civilization through education. In this program, they set up 48 school days near reservations. They hoped that this system would allow us to civilize our parents by sharing what we were learning. Many stories of the American man who experimented on us was spread. The man being Army Lieutenant Richard Henry. He was in charge of 72 Indian prisoners, where he was ordered to transport them to St. Augustine, Florida. He had his own agenda of education instead of imprisonment. He wanted to teach English, European ideas, concepts of civilization, Christianity, lessons in agriculture, and the working trades. He accomplished his goal in April of 1878. With 62 Indian students who joined the Hampton Institute, becoming teachers and sharing their research on the subject of savage versus civilized. They convinced their parents and tribal elders to allow them to be schooled farther away. This, along with the launching of Carlisle boarding schools, came a cultural genocide in 1979 by the U.S. government. Sadly, I was one of many Native American children to attend this school. They wanted to Americanize us and abolish our whole culture. We were taken away from our families and put into boarding schools for more than 3 years. We were punished for speaking our own native languages, and a concerted effort was made to eliminate our Indianness. Our hair was cut off, and we lived in military lifestyle of constant education, work, and specific schedules. Every day we woke up at 5:45 a.m., exercised with military drills, then breakfast at 6:45, industrial work at 8, and school at 9. After lunch, more industrial work and school with lectures. Then less than an hour of free time and bedtime by 9 p.m. In conclusion, the boarding school systems had replaced our culture and tribal languages with English, Christianity, and other American customs. Despite the constant effort, many of us held on to our tribal identities and went back to become leaders of politics in the tribes. Others got to know members of new tribes, which contributed to kinship and pan-Indian identity. This led to the American Indian movement over political and self-determination aspects. This gave us a fundamental component of our tribal identity of the 20th century.